Cut the music. We're behind schedule. We got to keep moving here. We'll get everybody out on time and then able to go to the VIP party tonight and have a blast. But you've been sitting for like an hour, so I need everybody to stand up for me. And we're going to play a little game called Heads or Tails. So I have a coin in my hand, and I'm going to flip said coin. And when I flip it, or before I flip it, I need you to choose whether it's going to be heads or tails. So if it's going to be heads, I need you to put your hands on your head, like this. If it's going to be tails, put your hands on your tail. And I have an awesome prize for whoever wins this epic game of heads or tails. Does everybody understand? Does anybody not understand? Okay, so first flip. Choose heads or tails. Everybody? Didn't realize this light would be in my face. So, if your hands are on your head, sit down. Everybody that had tails, stay standing. We're going to do it again. Choose your heads or your tails here. Heads or tails, folks. Choose. All right. If your hands are on your head, stay up. All right, how many people do we have left standing? Come to the front. Everybody with their hands on their head, everybody's still standing. Come to the front for me. It is pouring rain again, isn't it? You can hear it. Come on up, face the audience. Face the audience. Come on up. You can take your hands down, Andres. All right, come over. There's this huge space here. Come on over. All right, we're going to do this again. Choose heads or tails. Hands on your head or hands on your tail. If your hands are on your tail, go back to your seat. We have 3 left, and 2 of them work for Now Marketing Group. Oh, wait, does everyone? All right, we're going to do this again. Heads or tails, choose. If your hands are on your head, stay here. All right. Come on. You guys are friendly with each other. All right. All right. Choose heads or tails. One of you has to choose heads. Actually, whatever. Do whatever you want to do. All right. If your hands are on your tails, you lost. Colin is our winner. You get a copy of my favorite book of 2023. All right, so that was great. Everyone got to stand up and get some blood back in their body. So rooted in purpose, aligning your passions with your life's mission. I'll make sure I know which direction. Okay, so before we get to your purpose, we're going to take a big picture view. We're going to pull back and ask, what is the ultimate purpose of life? And to get the answer to this question, we're going to consult ancient wisdom and modern science. Ancient wisdom. Aristotle is going to be our contact person for ancient wisdom. And if you ask Aristotle, what is the purpose of life, he will give a one-word answer, and that one-word answer is eudaimonia. Eudaimonia means good soul. So to be a good soul is the ultimate purpose of life, according to ancient wisdom. Then we're going to ask modern science. Modern science, we're going to ask Martin Seligman, one of the founders of the American Positive Psychology Movement, what is the ultimate purpose of life? And Martin Seligman is going to say, to flourish. In fact, he liked the word flourish so much, well, you know what? We're going to come back to that in a second. You know what? Okay, there may be a mistake here, but we'll get there. At least it's not Ed Sheeran. Okay, so you ask, sorry, Katie. You ask Aristotle how do you live with eudaimonia? How do you live as a good soul? He says to live with arete. Arete is an ancient Greek word, roughly translated as living with virtue or living with excellence, but it has a deeper meaning, more of along the lines of showing up as the best version of yourself, moment to moment to moment, in service to something bigger than yourself. So we ask Martin Seligman, how do we live, how do we flourish? And he would say, put your virtues into action. I have become such a fan of both of these people, and their methodology, their ways to live a purposeful life, that I now have it tattooed on my body. So the word arete is here, and then I have a virtue compass here. You can't see it necessarily on the screen, but the 4 cardinal virtues of courage, wisdom, self-discipline, courage, and love, and then the positive psychology virtues of hope, gratitude, curiosity, and zest. Does anyone want to guess which of those 8 virtues is most correlated with happiness? You know the answer. To keep things on time, zest. Somebody said zest. Who said zest? We had some people up here too. Excellent. Yeah, zest is the virtue that is most correlated with happiness. Zest is essentially living with enthusiastic energy. If you would like to find out what your core virtues are, take this website down, viacharacter.org. You can do a free survey. It will show you your top 5 virtues and then give you an additional 20. There's no charge for the survey. It was actually developed by Martin Seligman, and it's a fantastic tool to use both for yourself and for your team members and or for your family, so that you can lean into what your top 5 virtues are. My number 1 virtue, does anyone know me well enough to know what my number 1 virtue is? Humor is my number 1 virtue. Okay, so what does it mean to flourish? So there's a flourishing scale that was developed by a guy named Ed Diener, and there are 8 questions here that are given a score of 1 to 7, with 1 being strongly disagree and 7 being strongly agreeing. So, I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. My social relationships are supportive and rewarding. I'm engaged and interested in my daily activities. I actively contribute to the happiness and well-being of others. I am competent and capable in the activities that are important to me. I am a good person and live a good life. I am optimistic about my future, and people respect me. And doggone it, people like me. Stuart Smalley. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, good. So, this is something, again, you can find a free way to take this yourself online, or you can just take a picture of this slide, rate these on a scale of 1 to 7, with 1 being strongly disagree, 7 strongly agree. The higher your score, the more you're flourishing. The lower your score, you need to put a little bit of work in, and maybe figure out what your purpose is. So what are you here to do? This was talked about several times today. I don't know how Jessica does this, but she always manages to string a lot of our presentations together, and we don't know about it until we get up here. And we're like, oh, they kind of talked about that earlier today. But Jeff talked about this with personal branding, and some of the other speakers today were kind of talking about, what is your purpose? What are you here to do? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What's your reason for getting out of bed in the morning? Mine is to help you optimize your life by sharing practical tools and ideas. Now, notice I did not say mine is to sell you comic books. And this is part of why I'm here today talking about this, because my purpose has changed over the last couple of years. And again, Jeff talked about this, that your purpose may change over time. You may start out in one direction. There's a great book called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. You climb that first mountain, which is the mountain that we're all expected to climb. High school, college, marriage, kids, whatever. And then you get to that top of that mountain and you see another mountain off in the distance. And it may be completely unrelated to that first mountain that you've climbed. So figuring out what is your reason for getting up in the morning. Because purpose gives us hope. If we don't have purpose, if we don't have targets and goals, it's hard to have hope. And hope, there are 3 components to hope. The first is believing that your future will be better than your present. The second is that you have the ability to get to that future. And the third is that you have multiple pathways to get there. Because many of us know that plans A, B, C, D, and E aren't going to work. So you need multiple pathways to get to that future. This is a social media conference. We're doing a lot of kind of looking outward. We spend a lot of time on the internet. We're talking about social media platforms. We're talking about websites. We spend a lot of time these days consuming other people's content, looking at other people's lives, and we need to be spending more time looking inward. Less time on the internet, more time on the internet, looking inside and asking, tough questions. We need to figure out, what do we love doing? What are we good at? And what does the world need? Where do those things overlap? And many of us in the audience, we may have found what that is, but many of us may also be searching. So you need to be able to take that time to analyze these things here. What do you love? What are you good at? And what does the world need? Because we discover by doing. I said this in past years on this stage. Some people have said it today. It's not about listening to another podcast, watching another video, reading another book. Growth is not about knowledge, it's about action. So we need to take action. We discover by doing. And we need to embrace failure. We've heard stories of failure. John Hafey shared his stories of failure this afternoon. I've had failures. I've had small businesses that didn't work. So we've all had those failures because growth is on the other side of failure. So you can either accept all of your excuses about why you can't have the life you want, or you can choose to be the hero of your own story. How many are familiar with Joseph Campbell and his hero's journey? A good life is one hero's journey after another. So what is a hero's journey? Let's use Harry Potter as an example. I think this is the second Harry Potter reference today, too. So, the hero is called off to adventure, maybe struggling, living under a staircase in his aunt and uncle's house. Answers the call to adventure, finds a wise mentor, in this case, Dumbledore. Has some friends that he teams up with, Ron and Hermione. Defeats evil, Voldemort, he who shall not be named, and then returns to train the next generation of heroes. And if you look at some of the most popular pop culture stories and stories across all time, they will almost always follow this hero's journey of call to adventure, wise mentor, buddies along the way, and then defeating the bad guy, the evil, and returning to train the next generation. Look at Star Wars, look at Lord of the Rings. Most stories follow this pattern. And with the hero's journey, we're not sidestepping lizards like that little guy up there. We're slaying dragons. All of us have dragons that we're slaying in our lives. And when we go on those hero's journeys and we return, we need to ask ourselves, in my opinion, one of the most powerful questions that we can ask. What do I want? Now, I apply this to three areas. Basically, I look at my life, look at life in general, broken down into three areas: your energy, your work, and your love. And you can apply that question to those three areas. With energy, it could be, what do I want? How do I want to get more energy? What do I need more energy for? Do I need to change my diet? Do I need to change my exercise routine? For work, what do I want? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Do I want to be doing something else? And then, of course, with love, with family, what do I want? Do I want phone-free connection with my spouse and with my kids? Do I want to spend more time at home and maybe have to look at a different type of job where I'm not showing up to cook food on Fridays and Saturday nights like John Hafey was? If you deliberately plan on being less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be unhappy for the rest of your life. Abraham Maslow. Many of us settle. We hear those stories, and I don't know if anybody in this room falls into that situation, that example of people who hate their jobs. I mean, if you're here with your boss, be careful about what you're doing right now. But you hear those stories all the time. I don't want to go to work in the morning. I hate what I'm doing. I hate my coworkers. I'm not happy. And it spills over into your personal relationships, into your family relationships. Why live that way? If you plan on being less than you're capable of being, then you will be unhappy for the rest of your life. So you can step forward into growth, or you can step backwards into safety. By being here for the next 2 days, I think you're stepping forward into growth. You're choosing to grow, whether it's through knowledge and social media marketing, or through a presentation like this, which is essentially about how to be a good human, how to be happy, how to ask those really thought-provoking, tough questions. And that's where my story kind of, how it got me here. For 20 years, I've been the comic book guy. I've been the guy that owns Alter Ego Comics, Main Street, downtown Lima. Whenever people wanted to talk about pop culture, or hey, how about those Marvel movies, or hey, there's a new Batman movie, I was the guy that they reached out to, and that's great. I still love what I do. I still love owning a comic shop. But 8 years ago, I had a nervous breakdown. I mentally and physically shut down. I became distant from my family. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And eventually I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and OCD. Had no idea that I had any of those things. So 8 years ago, I started paying attention to personal development. I started paying attention to my mental health, taking care of myself so I could take care of my family and my team and my customers. And that put me on the path to becoming a leadership and performance coach. It put me on the path to stepping out of my comfort zone when the coaching program I went through, a company called Heroic, put out a call asking for people to raise their hand to become coaches for some of their corporate clients. I thought, I'm not a coach, I'm a comic shop guy, I'm a retailer, what do I know about coaching? But I still sent in a video application. They received 1,000 applicants, they chose 40, and I was one of those 40. Then of those 40, they needed a group to train a bunch of coaches how to lead workshops in the Heroic modality. There were 10 of us, and I got to be one of those because I stepped forward into growth instead of backward into safety. So think about, what could you step forward into to grow rather than backward into safety? Because your infinite potential lies on the other side of your comfort zone. That's why it's called being uncomfortable. Whether you're trying to put on muscle and you're stressing your muscles, that's discomfort. Or maybe even coming to an event like this. There were people sitting at my table today. They showed up on their own from different states, not knowing anybody. Many of you in the audience, you may not know anybody else in the room, but you came to this to get the value that comes out of Social Media Week Lima. Does everybody know what this is? DeLorean from Back to the Future, correct? Okay. I'm glad that you all know this. Now, this will come back in a few moments. I need you to trust me on this, and I need you to get out of your comfort zone. And we're going to do a little guided meditation. And for those of you that were at my presentation last year, you know, sometimes I do kind of touchy-feely weird things like this that I didn't think I would be doing several years ago. So I think this is a great way to kind of wrap up day one. So I would invite you to relax, play along, and just listen for a little bit. So sit up straight. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. We're going to take some deep breaths. We're going to breathe in deep in through the nose, down into the belly, exhaling slightly longer than the inhale. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, maybe stare at the floor a little bit, stare off into the distance. Let's take those deep breaths in through the nose, down into the belly. Make that exhale just a little longer than your inhale. And I want you to imagine the front door of your home. You're standing on your porch, standing outside your front door. Maybe it's morning, the sun's just coming up. Listening to the sounds around you, maybe the sounds of birds. And suddenly you notice a DeLorean in your front yard. The door's open. You've seen Back to the Future. And you walk towards it. And you get into the DeLorean. And there's a date pre-programmed into it. It's 5 years from today. You get into the car, close the door, and you're transported 5 years into the future. And as the DeLorean comes to a stop, steam hissing out from different parts of the car. The door opens, and you step out. And as you step out, you see that you're back in your front yard. You look around, see if there's anything that's different, anything that's changed. And you see someone maybe 20 feet away from you, 25 feet away from you. And their back is to you. They start to turn around, and you see that it's you, 5 years in the future. You walk towards that future version of yourself, and you notice that you're radiant. That future you is glowing, fit, healthy, standing tall. And you ask future you, how did you get this way? What did you say yes to? And future you shares some things that they said yes to that has helped them become this radiant exemplar standing in front of you. And then you ask future you, what did you say no to? And they share some things that they said no to, some choices that they made that helped them get to where they are. And you take all that information in, you have a big smile on your face, and the DeLorean starts beeping, and you know that you need to get back in and come back to today. So you thank your future self for the wisdom that they've given you. Maybe give them a hug or a high five or a fist bump. You get back in the DeLorean, you close the door, and you're transported back to June 19th, 2024. You land back in your front yard, the door opens, you get out, and before you can even turn around, the time machine disappears. And you're left with this wisdom, this gift that you've been given of being able to talk to a future version of yourself. Let's take 2 more deep breaths in, a deep breath in through the nose, down into the belly. Exhale through your nose. 1 more inhale. And as you exhale, blink your eyes open, come back to the room. And now let's just take 2 minutes to jot down what your future self told you. What did they say yes to? What did they say no to? I would encourage you over the next couple of days, maybe after the conference is over, when you get back home if you've traveled, or this weekend if you're local, whatever, review that list. Look at those things that they said yes to, said no to, and maybe circle a number one on both sides, a number one start and a number one stop. Something that you could start doing now to get you closer to that radiant version of yourself 5 years from now. And a number one thing you could stop doing that would get you closer to finding that purpose, to being where you are 5 years from now. Another way that you can do that is by scanning the QR code. What do we do? Like, QR codes were not a thing pre-COVID. Like, no one cared. But now, yes, QR codes. If you scan that QR code, you will get 10 journaling exercises to discover your purpose. Fantastic exercises that you can do to help you figure that out, to do some deep work, some deep thought. We get so caught up in the fast-paced, 1-minute TikTok video, reel videos of our lives, that we need to spend that time, again, doing the inner work, the internet versus the internet. And if you found some value today, let's connect. My email address is up there, as well as Instagram and LinkedIn. It's been my privilege to stand up here and speak to you today. Thank you for your attention, and I will have a table talk tomorrow if anybody wants to talk more about purpose or showing up heroically, activating your potential. Have a great rest of your evening.